I always thought betrayal would feel loud, like glass shattering or someone screaming. But when it came, it was quiet, almost casual. My mother, Grace, was sipping tea like she was reading from a weather report. "Nathan," she said, "you can just take out loans. Everyone does it. Your brother needed the help more. That was it." No dramatic pause, no apology, just a shrug and the sound of her teaspoon clinking against the ceramic. She was talking about the $150,000 fund my grandparents had left me. Money meant for my MBA. Money that had been sitting there safely, or so I thought until I needed it. Until now. And it was gone. Not misplaced, not accidentally dipped into. Gone. Transferred to my younger brother Lucas, so he and his fiancée could buy their dream home. I sat there, stunned, barely able to breathe. I wasn't expecting confetti when I asked about the fund, just a number, a balance. But what I got felt like a slap in the face, followed by someone saying, "Don't overreact." Here's the thing. My grandparents didn't come from money. They built what they had from nothing. And when they passed, they made it clear that money was for me. Not for my parents to reallocate. Not for Lucas to play homeowner. Lucas, my golden boy brother, dropped out of college twice, couldn't stick to a job for more than a year, but still somehow managed to be the son. My parents orbited around. Me? I was the "you'll be fine" kid. The "he doesn't need anything" kid. I graduated top of my class, got a solid job in finance, and never asked for help. Maybe that was my mistake, because now they felt entitled to everything I'd been promised. And the worst part? They didn't even flinch. The drive back to my apartment felt longer than usual, even though it was only 20 minutes. My hands were clenched on the steering wheel the whole way, jaw tight. I wasn't angry, not yet. I was just processing. I kept replaying their words. "You're already ahead in life. Lucas needs this more. You're still young, you'll bounce back." They made it sound like some kind of charity project, like they'd just redirected a community grant, not stolen my future. That night, I barely slept. Instead, I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and started digging. I went through every email, every letter my grandparents ever sent. Old birthday cards with $50 bills and sticky notes that said, "Put this toward your future, Nathan." Every word hit harder than the last, and then it hit me. I was going to need help. That's when I thought of Miss Carter's senior counsel at my firm. Not just a razor-sharp legal mind, but someone I actually trusted. She always said, "If something feels wrong, follow the paper trail." So I sent her a short message. "Hi, Miss Carter. I know this is off the clock, but something serious happened. Would you have a moment this week? I don't know where to start." She replied in less than an hour. "Come in early tomorrow. We'll talk over coffee." The next morning, I was in her office by 7:45. Sunlight poured through the tall windows, but I couldn't feel it. I told her everything my grandparents fund, the promise, the betrayal. She didn't interrupt, just listened, arms crossed, eyes locked onto mine. When I was done, she leaned back and let out a quiet sigh. "Nathan, this isn't just shady. This could be illegal, especially if the fund was in your name and they were just custodians." I nodded slowly. "I don't have any proof, just conversations and the account. I never had full access." I trusted them. Miss Carter stood up and walked over to her filing cabinet, pulled out a slim folder, flipped through it, and slid a business card across the desk. "Wilson and Myers, LLP. Estate litigation and inheritance law. They're the best in town," she said. "You get them proof, and they'll get your money back." Then she paused. "And Nathan, if you're worried about legal fees, don't. I'll cover the retainer. Consider it an investment in justice." That nearly broke me. I hadn't expected that level of kindness. I was used to doing everything alone, but I wouldn't be doing this alone anymore. That night, I made another call, this time to someone who'd always had his doubts about my parents' financial decisions. "Aunt Rachel," I said, "I need your help, and I need to dig into some bank records. Aunt Rachel didn't ask many questions when I called. She just said, "Come over. Bring everything you've got." She was the black sheep in the family, my dad's younger sister, a semi-retired journalist who once exposed a county official for embezzlement with nothing but a notepad and a hunch. She never bought into my parents' "we do everything for the family" narrative. She used to tell me, "Nathan, loyalty means nothing if it's one-sided." When I showed up at her townhouse, she already had 2 laptops open and coffee brewing. No small talk, no sympathy speech, just pure focused energy. I handed her a folder filled with screenshots, old emails, and my grandparents' will. She flipped through it in silence, skimming with the eyes of someone who had sniffed out lies for a living. Then she stopped at one page, the scanned copy of my grandfather's handwritten letter that was read at the will signing. "This fund is to support Nathan in his graduate studies. No other use is to be permitted. The trustee must act solely in Nathan's interest." She raised an eyebrow. "And your parents were the trustees?" "Yeah," I muttered. I never thought to challenge it. "They were my parents." Aunt Rachel gave a dry laugh. "Mistake number 1, kiddo." She got to work. We combed through every financial record I could access, my emails with the family accountant, past wire transfers, even casual texts from Lucas hinting at help from Mom and Dad around the time they started house hunting. Rachel requested copies of public property records and, with a bit of her journalistic charm, pulled recent bank liens and mortgage applications tied to Lucas's new house. Turns out, the down payment had been processed through a shared family account that once held my fund. That was the smoking gun. But the deeper we dug, the worse it got. Rachel managed to retrieve archived bank statements that went back further than I expected, months before my grandmother even passed. Quiet withdrawals. Transfers with vague notes like family support or real estate prep. I stared at the screen, the reality setting in like a migraine. "They were draining the account before she even died," I said, my voice flat. Rachel leaned back. "They were counting on you, never asking questions." The next morning, I walked into Wilson and Myers LLP with a folder that felt like a bomb. I met with an attorney named Ava Sinclair, who specialized in trust mismanagement and inheritance fraud. She reviewed the documents with clinical precision, asking a few clarifying questions before closing the folder with a decisive snap. "This is strong," she said. "Your parents had fiduciary duty. They violated that repeatedly. And you've got proof." Then she smiled. "We're going to make them regret every penny." I didn't contact my parents after that. I didn't need to, but they contacted me. 2 nights later, my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. I answered, half out of curiosity, half because I knew this moment would come. "Nathan," my mother said, her voice carefully neutral. "We've been thinking. Maybe we overstepped." I didn't respond. "We'd like to avoid dragging the family into a legal mess," she continued. "Your father and I are willing to return a portion of the money." I laughed. Loud, bitter. "A portion? You mean the part that isn't buried under Lucas's overpriced backyard pool?" She went quiet. Then my father's voice cut in. "You're being dramatic, son. Is this really how you want to treat your family?" "I'm just following your lead," I said. "You set the tone when you robbed me blind. We raised you," he barked. "Put food on your table, paid for your schooling. And this is how you repay us?" There it was, the guilt card, the emotional invoice. "I didn't realize that raising your child came with a bill," I snapped. "Guess what? You're about to get one back with interest." And I hung up. I thought that would be the end of the dramatics, but I underestimated Lucas. The next day I got an email. Subject, please read. "Nathan, hey man, I didn't know where the money came from, okay? Mom and Dad just said it was theirs to give. If I had known, I would have said something. Please don't burn everything down over this." I forwarded it to Ava. She called it a soft admission of liability. I called it bullshit. Lucas knew. He knew from the moment I brought up grad school applications at dinner and our parents exchanged that weird glance. He knew when he posted those smug Instagram stories in front of his new kitchen island, with hashtag blessed in the caption. He just didn't think I'd fight back. They never do. A week later, Ava called me into her office. "There's more," she said, flipping open a thick manila folder. "Your aunt found this through a probate research firm." She handed me a document with my grandmother's signature. It was dated 8 months before her death, a transfer authorization. "To whom was this made?" I asked, reading the fine print. Ava's voice dropped. "Your mother moved part of your grandmother's liquid assets while she was still alive. It may have been legal, or it may have been undue influence." The floor shifted beneath me. "They didn't just betray you," she said. "They betrayed your grandmother too." And suddenly, it wasn't just about money anymore. It was about legacy. I didn't plan to destroy anyone's life. At first, I just wanted what was mine. But when the legal process started moving, it was like pulling on a loose thread. The whole thing unraveled faster than I imagined. Ava had filed an emergency motion to freeze any further movement of the trust assets. The court granted it without hesitation. And just like that, Lucas and his fiancée couldn't close on their dream home. The bank started asking questions. Questions that Lucas, golden child, self-declared creative genius, wasn't prepared to answer. Within a week, the loan officer flagged irregularities in their mortgage application. Things like unverified income sources, unexplained wire transfers, and a co-signer, my father, who was suddenly under financial investigation. I heard about the fallout from Aunt Rachel, who had her ear to the ground like a war journalist. "Lucas blew up at the bank," she told me, grinning like she was reading juicy tabloid drama. Word is, he nearly got escorted out by security. Part of me felt a twinge of pity, but it disappeared when I remembered his email. That performative, gaslight why plea for forgiveness without responsibility. That's when I knew he deserved everything coming. My parents, on the other hand, were unraveling differently. They tried to act unbothered at first. But soon, the whispers started spreading across our little town. A family friend messaged me on LinkedIn of all places. "Hey Nathan, I don't mean to pry, but is it true what I heard about your parents and the inheritance? People love a scandal, especially when it involves respected people falling from grace. My father, once a semi-prominent local businessman, had his reputation torched. His country club suspended his membership pending legal outcome. His longtime accountant friend stopped returning calls. And my mother? She resigned from the neighborhood committee before they could vote her out. Apparently, someone circulated the court filing during a PTA meeting. Subtle. But the real storm hit at the preliminary court hearing. It wasn't even the full trial, just a public hearing to establish the facts of the trust breach and determine if a full case would proceed. My parents looked small, shrunk, like the weight of their choices had finally settled on their shoulders. I didn't look at them when I took the stand. Ava walked me through the timeline, the original will, the setup of the trust, the legal duty they had as trustees. Then came the transfers, the withdrawals, the gifts to Lucas, and finally, the emotional gut punch. A letter my grandmother wrote months before her death, sealed and addressed to me, but found in a file my mother never gave me. I read part of it aloud in the courtroom. "You've always been the one who cared about the future. That's why we built this fund for you. We trust your judgment, Nathan. Follow your path, even if others don't understand it." I didn't cry, but my voice cracked. Lucas didn't show up. I was told his fiancée had called off their engagement after the mortgage got pulled. Apparently, being financially radioactive isn't very attractive. He moved out of their new place before the furniture even arrived. Poetic. That same week, Miss Carter invited me into her office. She poured 2 cups of coffee, hers black, mine with too much sugar, and gave me a look I hadn't seen before, not mentor to mentee, but something closer to respect between equals. What you've done, she said, most people wouldn't have the stomach for. I didn't think I did either, I admitted. She leaned forward. You do now. Then she dropped the bomb. I've spoken with the partners. When you finish your MBA, assuming you still want to go, there's a place for you here. Not just as a junior. We're thinking senior track. My mind blanked for a second. Are you serious? You've shown judgment, grit, and a brutal sense of justice. She smiled. That's exactly what we need in this business. A few days later, Aunt Rachel and I sat on her patio drinking iced tea. So, she said, you planning to visit your parents anytime soon? I let out a dry laugh. What would we even talk about? How to write checks with other people's money, she snorted. Touche. Then she grew serious. Just promise me one thing. What? Don't let this turn you cold. You won. Don't forget what that cost you. I nodded slowly. I won't, but I also won't forget who they really are. That weekend, I got a plain envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single note, written in my mother's handwriting. You'll always be our son. We hope you remember that. No apology, no ownership, just one last guilt trip. I folded it and dropped it in the trash without reading it again. They always thought I'd just move on. What they never expected was that I'd move up. 3 months after the court ruling, I stood in front of my floor-to-ceiling window, coffee in hand, watching the morning light pour into my new apartment. Hardwood floors, soft morning breeze drifting through open balcony doors. Quiet, peaceful, mine. No borrowed blessings. No stolen sacrifices, no conditional love, just mine. The judge had ruled decisively in my favor. My parents were ordered to return the entire $150,000, plus damages for breach of fiduciary duty and mismanagement of my grandmother's estate. The final number was closer to $200,000. They didn't have the money. So the court ordered the sale of the home they'd inherited from my grandparents, the very house they'd raised Lucas and me in. The family home, they used to call it. Now it was listed on Zillow like any other property, staged with fake plants and hollow smiles in wide-angle photos. They tried asking around for help, apparently. Loans, quiet bailouts. But news travels fast in small towns, especially when you've burned every bridge behind you. Lucas didn't last long at his job. After the scandal broke, the school board reviewed his ethics file after someone anonymously submitted the court documents. His contract wasn't renewed. Apparently, even private schools don't want to employ people caught up in financial fraud. His fiancée left him the same week, packed up and moved back to her parents. I didn't hear the whole story, but according to Aunt Rachel, the final straw came when she learned the money had never legally belonged to Lucas or my parents. He told her I was just overreacting. She told him to get out. Fair trade. Miss Carter was true to her word. After my MBA acceptance letter came in, full scholarship, no less, she brought me into the firm's future planning committee. Not officially on payroll yet, she said, but I want you to start thinking like an executive. I used to think ambition was about titles and income brackets, but now it felt different. It was about autonomy, boundaries, knowing I could build something on my own without depending on people who only saw me as a backup plan. As for Aunt Rachel, she became my unofficial life coach. We met for brunch every Sunday. She still brought her reporter's notebook sometimes, flipping it open to scribble down quotes that made her laugh. One morning, she looked up over her omelet and said, "You realize you just took down your entire bloodline, right?" I smiled. "I just held up a mirror." She nodded. "Even better. Eventually, I bought a condo. Nothing flashy, a 2-bedroom unit in a quiet neighborhood near a park. The kind of place where you can sleep with the windows open and not worry about drama knocking at your door. It wasn't the money that meant something. It was what it represented. I wasn't that kid anymore, the one who kept his head down, who swallowed unfairness like it was normal. I wasn't the "you'll be fine" sibling. I was the one who made sure no one else walked over me again. The The day the funds officially transferred back to me, I opened a new account. Not just for savings, for investing. Aunt Rachel and Miss Carter both gave me the same advice in different words. Don't just heal, thrive. Make it hurt that they ever doubted you. So I did. I set aside a portion for long-term investments and funneled the rest into my MBA prep. I even donated a chunk to a scholarship fund in my grandmother's name. It felt right, like I was finishing what she started. I haven't spoken to my parents since the verdict. I hear things, though, from old neighbors, from family friends who still think I should reconnect. Apparently, my mother barely leaves their new apartment. My father spends most of his days at a rundown cafe near the edge of town, staring out the window like he's waiting for something to change. It won't. They chose their side a long time ago, and for once, I chose mine. One morning, I got an email from the dean of the MBA program. We're honored to have you join the cohort, Nathan. Your application showed remarkable resilience, leadership, and vision. We believe you'll make a lasting impact. It felt surreal, the kind of moment you imagine, but never think will actually happen. So I called Miss Carter. You called it, I said. I'm in. I told you, she replied. You're not just going to survive this, Nathan. You're going to lead. And I believed her. Later that week, I opened a small package on my doorstep. No label, no note. Inside was a photograph, my grandparents, standing on the porch of their old home, arms wrapped around each other. Behind them, the sky was golden, the light soft. I don't know who sent it. Maybe Aunt Rachel. Maybe fate. I framed it and put it in my office, not because I needed a reminder of the pain, but because they had believed in me when no one else did. And now, I believed in me too. Story 2. I was 23 when my grandfather asked me to choose between the Carter brothers, Liam or Nolan. I picked Liam. He was the older, more reserved one. Kind, thoughtful, a little distant. Everyone, including my family, assumed I'd go for Nolan, the golden boy I'd chased around since we were kids. I once made myself sick, literally feverish, trying to convince my parents to betroth me to him. It didn't matter how desperate it looked. I was in love, or at least, I thought I was. Nolan was the kind of guy who never looked back when people followed him, and I was always 2 steps behind, hoping he'd stop and turn around. He never did, until our wedding day. That's when he grabbed Lily's hand, yes. That Lily, the girl my parents practically raised like a second daughter, and ran. Right in front of everyone, in front of the altar, in front of me. He looked my family in the eye and declared he would never marry me. Only her. I stood there like a complete idiot in a dress I had dreamed about since I was 15. I didn't cry. Not until the cameras were gone, the guests had left, and the realization hit me like a sledgehammer. He never loved me. He only said yes to the engagement so he could dump me publicly. I didn't get revenge right away. Life did that for me, because I died not long after alone, sick and humiliated. And then I woke up, reborn. A second shot. This time, I didn't chase Nolan. I ignored him at every turn. I picked Liam. To my surprise, everything went smoothly. No objections, no drama. Even my grandfather, who once backed Nolan's choice, asked me gently, "Are you sure?" Liam's a bit quiet. I told him the truth. I'd rather have peace than pain. Fast forward a few weeks. I was at the mall picking out rings, custom ones I'd designed myself. Delicate, minimal, elegant, meant for Liam and me. But when I got to the store, the manager told me apologetically that someone else had already picked them up. That someone was Nolan, because the store belonged to the Carter Group. The staff couldn't stop him. I didn't even need confirmation. I saw Lily post about it online. One-of-a-kind rings from my love, #blessed. And yes, they were the exact designs I'd submitted. My initials were inside the band. I was livid. I didn't even hesitate. I went straight to Carter Corp headquarters, but I didn't find Nolan. I found Lily. lounging like she owned the place. She twirled the ring on her finger and smiled, fake innocent. A bit plain, isn't it? But Nolan gave it to me, so I adore it. I clenched my fists. She leaned in with this smug glint in her eye. If I wear it to your wedding, do you think I'll outshine you? And something in me snapped. I reached for the ring. She fought back. I didn't get far before a hard kick landed in my ribs and sent me to the floor. Nolan had walked in, and instead of helping me up, he screamed at me. "You're insane! How dare you touch her?" I stared at him, shocked. Tears blurred my vision, not from the pain but from the betrayal. Lily whimpered, "If you hadn't come, I don't know what she would have done." He wiped her tears. "It's okay. I won't let that woman hurt you again." That woman. He didn't even say my name. I left the office bruised inside and out. His secretary tried to help me, offered me tissues. Nolan saw and fired her on the spot. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was pathetic. All of it. That night, I limped home, heart pounding with a single, sharp realization. Nolan Carter truly hated me. And maybe he always had. The next day, I showed up at the Carter family dinner. Liam was already there, waiting for me. He stood as I entered, pulled out a chair, didn't say much, just quietly nodded. Nolan walked in late and scowled when he saw me next to his brother. "Ava," he said, acting casual. "Why are you sitting by him? Come here." Before I could respond, Liam's voice cut through the air. "Why shouldn't my fiancée sit beside me?" Everyone froze. Even Nolan. He blinked, unsure. What? What kind of joke is this? Liam didn't flinch. "Do you object to me marrying her?" Silence. "Everyone knows she was obsessed with me," Nolan hissed. "She faked being sick just to get engaged." I was about to respond, but Liam took my hand under the table and asked one question. "And you? Do you like her?" Nolan couldn't answer. "Then why are you so upset?" Liam asked, still calm. "You don't want her. You made that clear. So why should it matter who does?" He turned to me, his gaze gentle. "Ava, do you want to marry me?" I nodded. My heart was thudding so loud I was sure everyone could hear it. "Then it's settled," Liam said. "Let's stop pretending Nolan has any say in this." Lily showed up fashionably late. She was overdressed, of course, acting like she was the guest of honor. Mr. Carter Sr. looked her up and down with a sour expression. "Who invited her?" "I did," Nolan said, unapologetic. "She's not family," Mr. Carter replied. "And this is a family dinner to discuss wedding plans. She's Ava's sister. She's adopted. Let's not forget." Lily tried to make herself small, blinking as if holding back tears. "If I'm not welcome, I can go." "Don't go," Nolan said, taking her hand like a white knight. Of course he did. She sat next to him, then looked at me and mouthed silently, "What do you have that I don't?" I didn't answer, but Liam did. He picked a piece of sea bass from his plate, boneless, my favorite, and placed it gently on mine. "You always liked fish," he said. I was stunned. Nolan never even noticed. I looked down, cheeks heating. "Thank you." "No need," he said. "You're about to be my wife. It's my job to take care of you." Under the table, my phone buzzed. "Nolan, 10 minutes ago, Ava. What are you doing? You used to beg for me. 5 minutes ago. Is this fake? Are you just trying to make me jealous? 1 minute ago. What did you promise Liam to get him to play along?" I blocked him, then returned to dinner like nothing happened. But Nolan couldn't help himself. "Ava," he snapped loudly, "why aren't you answering my messages?" I calmly put down my fork, wiped my lips, and stood. Then I threw my water in his face. Everyone gasped. Lily shrieked, "Sister, what are you doing?" I looked Nolan in the eye and said, "If you're confused, let me clear it up. I'm marrying Liam. I've blocked you. Don't message me again." He gaped like a fish. Lily started to cry, obviously for attention. "If this is about the ring, Ava, I'll give it back." "I didn't know it meant so much to you." Liam turned to her. "What ring?" I told him everything. His expression darkened. "That ring wasn't meant for you. he told Lily coldly. And if Ava hadn't forgiven you, I demand you return it right now. It's just a ring, Nolan muttered. Liam stood, tall and composed. Anyone who disrespects my fiancé will answer to me. Dinner ended in silence. Not a happy silence, but a warning one. A few days after that dinner, things started to shift. Liam and I got deeper into wedding prep, cake tastings, fittings, photographer meetings, venue walkthroughs. He wasn't just supportive. He showed up, like emotionally and literally. He listened to me talk about fabrics and seating charts, like it was the most important intel of his day. I'm not gonna lie, it felt surreal. Meanwhile, Nolan went radio silent. No texts, no passive-aggressive rants. Just silence. At first, I thought he was finally backing off. Spoiler, he wasn't. That peace lasted about a week. Then one night, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. 5 minutes later, a text came in from one of Nolan's old college buddies. Someone I barely knew, but who used to hang around back in the day. Hey, Ava, I hate to bug you, but Nolan's drunk, like wasted. He's at this barbecue spot near 8th in Claremont. He's a mess. Won't let anyone call Lily. Says she's dead to him. Can you come get him? I stared at the message for a long time. My first instinct? Delete and move on. But something pulled at me. I wasn't worried about him. I just didn't want him getting into trouble. Or worse, dragging my name into it again. So I messaged Liam. Just a heads up, Nolan's drunk somewhere. His friend asked me to check on him. I'll text you the address. I'm not going alone, just going to make sure he doesn't get himself arrested. Liam replied in under a minute. I'll meet you there. Of course he would. The place was a small street-side joint with string lights and cheap plastic chairs. I spotted Nolan from across the patio, head down. Arms sprawled across the table, completely out of it. A half-empty bottle of whiskey sat in front of him. I walked over slowly, hands in my coat pockets. He didn't even look up until I spoke. Nolan. His head lifted, sluggish. His eyes were bloodshot and glassy. You came, he slurred, like it meant something. Why'd you come? Your friend called. I didn't want you ending up in a hospital or jail. He chuckled bitterly. Liar, you still care. Before I could respond, he stood wobbly and suddenly grabbed my face and kissed me. I froze. His breath reeked of alcohol. I shoved him back instinctively, then slapped him. Hard. What the hell is wrong with you? He stumbled back, hand on his cheek, stunned. Then, in true Nolan fashion, he went full dramatics. He dropped to his knees, clinging to my legs like some tragic soap opera character. Ava, please, don't marry Liam. I'll do it. I'll marry you. I was stupid. I was blind. Just don't do this. I yanked my legs back, completely mortified. Get up. He didn't. Instead, he started crying. Real tears. It was awkward and sad and kind of terrifying all at once. I'll leave Lily. I swear. Just give me another shot. I'll love you the way you deserved. I'll make it right. And that's when Liam showed up. He didn't say a word at first. Just stepped forward and socked Nolan in the jaw so hard he dropped like a rag doll. I gasped. Nolan was on the ground, dazed, blood on his lip. Liam looked down at him like he was a stranger. I told you once. Don't come near her again. Not even as a brother. He turned to me, his voice soft again. Sorry I was late. And just like that, everything hit me. The humiliation I'd swallowed in my past life. The pain of begging someone who didn't want me. The betrayal of watching that same person hold another woman's hand in front of my family. The years I'd wasted. I crumpled into Liam's arms and cried. Not quietly, ugly cried. Years of grief pouring out all at once. He just held me, whispering, It's over. You're safe now. We got married the next day. No drama. No theatrics. No last-minute objections. Nolan wasn't even there. I found out later that Liam had arranged for the family's driver to take him to the airport the night before. One-way ticket. Somewhere far. Somewhere quiet. Lily? She vanished too. Word was, she claimed she was sick and needed treatment abroad. Truthfully, I think she followed him. But judging by her social media silence and the fact she didn't return for months, I guessed she didn't find him. Or if she did, he didn't want to be found. Our wedding was intimate, soft music, light flowers, a warm breeze, and the smell of lavender. I wore a simpler dress this time, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Liam looked, God, like something out of a catalog. The kind of man you dream about but never think is real. And the way he looked at me when I walked down that aisle, no one had ever looked at me like that before, not even in my dreams. We said our vows, exchanged rings, and when he kissed me, it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like home. That night, after all the guests had gone, I waited in the bridal suite, nerves fluttering in my stomach. Liam walked in, hair slightly tousled, suit jacket gone, tie loosened. He looked at me like I was something sacred, then collapsed onto the bed face first with a groan. Drunk? I asked, teasing. He rolled onto his back, eyes closed. Just tired, but I'm happy. I walked over to help him loosen his tie. Want me to make you something? Tea? He pulled me gently down beside him. Just stay, please. So I did. I curled into his side, heart full. Hey, I asked after a beat. When did you start liking me? He was quiet for a second, then said, when you were 16, you followed Nolan to our house. You were wearing that ridiculous yellow raincoat. I laughed. I looked like a walking banana. He smiled, eyes still closed. I thought you looked like sunshine. And just like that, I knew he'd loved me quietly, deeply, and for far longer than I'd ever realized. He never fought for me the way Nolan did. He just showed up, and that made all the difference. 3 months into the marriage, I found myself crouched over the toilet most mornings, trying not to throw up my entire soul. Morning sickness hit me hard. I couldn't keep food down, couldn't even brush my teeth without gagging. I lost weight instead of gaining. My face was pale, my moods unstable, didn't even begin to cover it. Liam, though, he never complained. Every day he'd try a new recipe, even stuff he found on obscure mommy blogs or Reddit threads titled, My Wife Hates Food Now What? He even started labeling my meals like experiments. Version 4.3 of mild chicken soup, low salt, no garlic, extra ginger. Taste test at your own risk. I'd smile, sip 2 spoons, then run to the sink. He never took it personally. One evening, as I was curled up on the couch with a heat pack and the emotional stability of a wilted lettuce, I groaned, This is all your fault. He grinned, came over, and rubbed my back. Yes, dear, all my fault. Now be gentle with me, I'm sensitive. Around the 5th month, the hormones calmed down. I could finally eat without making peace with the afterlife. That's when things got good. I started sleeping better. My energy returned. My belly grew round and obvious, and every time I caught Liam just staring at it, eyes soft, it made me tear up. This man had loved me in silence, waded through my storm, and now, here he was, rubbing cocoa butter on my belly like it was his religion. I didn't think I could love anyone this much, until the baby kicked, and I saw Liam cry for the first time. Meanwhile, Nolan stayed gone. Lily popped up once briefly, said she'd returned for a medical checkup. She looked thinner, less radiant. We exchanged polite nods at a charity gala, and that was it. No drama, no scenes, just 2 women who had shared a complicated past and were now pretending to be strangers in public. She didn't bring up Nolan. Neither did I. Honestly, I think we were both tired. Then, one Saturday afternoon, everything changed. I was in the nursery, folding tiny onesies, when Liam walked in with a serious look on his face. Your grandfather called, he said. Nolan's back. I blinked. Back? Where? Here, in the city. He's been back for 2 weeks. I think he was avoiding you. I sat down slowly. Liam came over, knelt in front of me, and held my hands. He reached out to your grandfather, said he wanted to apologize. I didn't say anything. I can tell him to back off, say whatever needs to be said. I looked at him, at the man who had given me everything Nolan never could: respect, stability, love without conditions. I'm not scared of him, I said quietly. If he wants to talk, he can come, but I'm not apologizing for moving on. Liam kissed my knuckles. That's my girl. The meeting happened 2 days later, at my family's house, neutral ground. I wore a loose dress, comfortable flats, and no makeup. I didn't need armor. Nolan showed up looking like someone who hadn't slept in months. His hair was longer, his shirt wrinkled. The same man who once mocked me for being too plain now looked like he'd stepped out of a storm. We sat in the living room. He didn't waste time. "Ava," he said, voice low. "I messed up. Everything. I know I don't deserve it, but I wanted to say sorry. For the wedding. For the years I ignored you. For Lily. All of it." I nodded. "Thank you. I appreciate that." He seemed surprised by how calm I was. I thought you'd be angry." I gave a small smile. I was. For a long time. But anger's heavy. I've been lighter without it. He glanced at my belly, then looked down. "Is it his?" I blinked. "I'm married, Nolan. Of course it's his." He winced. "Right, sorry, that was stupid." We sat in silence for a bit. Then he said something I didn't expect. "You look happy." "I am." He nodded again, but this time slower, like he was finally understanding something he'd missed for years. I hope he takes care of you." I laughed gently. "He does. Every day." Nolan stood. "Then I won't bother you again." He paused at the door. "You were always too good for me. I just didn't see it in time." And then he left. And just like that, I felt the door close. Not slammed shut, just gently, like it had been waiting for me to let go on my own. The baby came in the middle of spring. It was raining outside. Soft, steady, like the world was being washed clean. Labor was long, painful. But when they placed that tiny, wailing, squirming bundle on my chest, every heartbreak, every mistake, every tear felt worth it. Liam held our daughter like he was afraid she might disappear. He cried again. So did I. We named her Elia. It means light, because that's what she was. A light at the end of a very, very long tunnel. Now, life isn't perfect. We still argue over dumb things like laundry and who forgot to buy oat milk. But every time Liam kisses me goodbye before work, or sneaks in late at night with flowers and a guilty smile, I remember that I chose this life, on purpose, with both eyes open. And every time our daughter giggles or reaches out her tiny hand to hold mine, I think back to that girl in the wedding dress, left standing alone. She would have never believed this peace was possible, but it is, because I stopped chasing people who didn't love me, and chose someone who always had. Story 3. You ever meet someone who just drains the energy from a room? That's Sam, my brother-in-law, or as I've recently started calling him, my personal migraine in human form. Our family holds these monthly barbecues ever since. Our dad had a mild heart scare last year. It's our way of making sure we check in, stay connected. Nothing too fancy: grilled burgers, beers, kids running around, stories from work, that sort of thing. Sam, 30, usually ghosts these gatherings. Always has some excuse: an interview or a networking mixer, whatever. But this time, he actually showed. My sister, Leah, 27, looked like she hadn't slept in a week. She was still in scrubs, hair pulled into a messy bun, eyes sunken. Meanwhile, Sam trailed behind her, completely zoned out on his phone, barely acknowledging anyone. It got worse. Sam posted up in a corner of the patio and didn't move. Just sat there glued to his screen while Leah helped set up, prepped food, cleaned, and played hostess like everything was fine. It wasn't. I could tell from the way she kept checking over her shoulder, like she was trying to make sure Sam hadn't vanished or started a fight. Eventually, I followed her inside when she went to grab drinks. I asked if she was okay and the dam broke. She crumpled against the counter and started crying. I mean, full on. Can't catch your breath sobbing. She told me they were 3 months behind on rent. Sam hadn't applied to a single job in weeks. She was working 16-hour hospital shifts, coming home to dishes in the sink, and Sam passed out on the couch with his headset on, controller still in hand. She begged me not to tell our parents, especially Dad, fearing the stress would set off another heart episode. She blamed herself, kept saying, if she just worked harder, picked up more overtime, maybe they'd catch up. My heart broke right there. I hated seeing her like that, burned out, ashamed, and trying to carry all of it alone. That's not who Leah is. She's the strongest person I know. After she went back outside, I sat with this for a few minutes. I didn't want to overstep, but I couldn't just do nothing either. I remembered my buddy, Jason, who owns a construction firm. They train new hires, pay decently $25 HR with benefits after 90 days. It's not glamorous, but it's stable, honest work. Figured. I'd float it to Sam, see if he was open to it. I found him outside, still scrolling. Tried to ease into it, asking how the job hunt was going. He gave me some vague BS. I've got some stuff in the pipeline. Sure, dude. Then I mentioned Jason's company. Sam's face contorted. He scoffed, called it grunt work, and said he wasn't about to lower himself to labor jobs for people who peaked in high school. His words, not mine. I tried to stay calm, told him that making an honest living was better than living off his wife's exhaustion. And that's when he exploded. He jumped up, shouting in my face, accused me of humiliating him, said I'd always looked down on him because he didn't have a college degree like me. For the record, I went to community college and worked the night shift at a warehouse to pay my tuition. Leah ran over when she heard the shouting. I thought she'd back me up, given everything she'd confided earlier. Instead, she screamed at me, said I didn't understand, that Sam was trying, that I had no right to interfere. Sam stormed off, slamming the car door. Leah followed, tears streaming. The barbecue dissolved into awkward silence. My parents pulled me aside afterward, said I should have stayed out of it. Mom said Sam's sensitive about the job situation. Dad told me Leah had said Sam was working with a career coach. I was stunned. That's not what she told me in the kitchen. None of this made sense. That was 3 days ago. I still feel sick thinking about it. Let me rewind a bit. Leah and I aren't related by blood, but she's been my sister since I was 12, and our parents got married. My mom died when I was 5, and Leah's dad split when she was 2. We both came into that blended family missing something, and we bonded over it. She became my best friend before I knew what that word even meant. I was fiercely protective of her growing up. Still am. So when she met Sam during nursing school 5 years ago, I was skeptical, but he was smooth, charismatic, worked in pharmaceutical sales, brought her lunch between classes, helped her study, even volunteered at her hospital events. He had everyone fooled, including me. They were married within a year, bought a condo, adopted a cat, had matching Mr. and Miss S coffee mugs. The whole Pinterest dream. Then 2 years ago, Sam lost his job. Company downsizing, he said. I believed him. These things happen. Leah picked up extra shifts at the hospital. She said it was temporary, that Sam just needed time. Except time kept passing, and he stayed unemployed. Leah started working 60 hours a week. Sam's excuses evolved. Bad market, wrong fit, commute too long, pay too low. He stopped showing up to family dinners. When Leah came alone, she was quiet, thinner, drained. And then the stories started surfacing. Sam being spotted at bars in the middle of the day, playing poker at casinos, bragging to friends about working the system. One of Leah's coworkers told me she saw him sneaking out of a local gambling joint at 3 p.m. I tried talking to our parents. They didn't want to hear it. He's depressed, Mom said. He just needs time, Dad added. Leah's not the type to ask for help, so they assumed if she wasn't saying anything, everything must be fine. But I knew better. Everything came to a head at that barbecue. Now, Leah won't return my calls. She sent one text, just a picture from their wedding and a message: "You ruined everything." Our parents blame me for making things worse. Even my wife, usually the voice of reason, told me maybe I picked the wrong time and place to confront Sam. But every time I replay that day in my head, all I see is Leah's face in the kitchen, broken, tired, and completely alone. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything, but maybe, just maybe, I was the only one willing to. 2 weeks passed. Not a word from Leah. No replies to my texts, not even a read receipt. Her silence was louder than any argument. It was eating me alive. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her slumped in our parents' kitchen, crying like a dam had finally burst. I couldn't forget the way she looked when she said she felt like a failure. And now? Now she was defending the very guy who had drained her dry. So I made a decision. I didn't care what anyone thought anymore. I wasn't trying to start a fight. I just wanted to understand, fix what I could. Through Mom, I found out Sam had moved in with his buddy Kyle after needing space from Leah. Apparently, they'd been fighting about money. What else? And Leah told him to leave for a while. I waited until a Sunday evening. Figured I had the best chance of catching him sober. I drove to Kyle's place, a run-down apartment building near the edge of town. The kind where the siding peels off and the parking lot smells like spilled beer and stale smoke. When I knocked, the music inside paused. A few seconds later, Sam opened the door. He looked rough. Greasy hair, bloodshot eyes, shirt stained with what I hope was pizza sauce. He squinted at me like I was the sun. "What do you want?" he slurred. I told him I just wanted to talk. Just 5 minutes. He let me in, barely. Kyle sat awkwardly on a gaming chair, pretending to scroll his phone. The place was trashed, empty bottles, pizza boxes, old takeout containers everywhere, a half-burned candle on the floor, like that was doing anything. Sam dropped onto the couch and started ranting before I even sat down. According to him, I'd ruined his life. He said Leah wouldn't stop comparing him to me. "Why can't you be more like Drew? Why can't you get a real job like Drew?" Thing is, I know Leah. That's not her. She doesn't compare. If anything, she avoids conflict at all costs. I told him he needed to wake up, that Leah was drowning while he was playing Call of Duty and pretending to be a victim. He stood up fast, staggered a bit, got in my face. "You think you're better than me, huh? Because you work a boring office job and bought a house before 35, 35, 35? He poked my chest. I didn't move. "I just want Leah to be okay," I said. "You say you love her, but you're dragging her down, man. You're not even trying." He shoved me. Not hard, but enough to make a point. That's when Kyle stood up. All right, chill out." And then Kyle snapped. He looked at Sam, then at me, like he'd finally hit his limit. He said he couldn't keep watching this, that Sam was full of crap. There was no career coach, no job leads, nothing. Sam spent every day sleeping in, gaming, drinking. He showed me texts, actual screenshots of Sam bragging about how he had Leah wrapped, how she'd never leave him because she was too proud to admit she married the wrong guy. One message even joked about taking cash from her purse while she slept. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I was still trying to process it when I heard the door swing open behind me. Leah. She stood in the doorway, frozen. Her eyes scanned the room, the bottles, the mess. Sam swaying like a barely functioning windsock. She hadn't come to see me. She was tracking Sam's phone. Said he'd disappeared again and she thought he might have done something stupid. But when her eyes landed on me, something shifted. She didn't get mad at Sam. She got mad at me. "You just couldn't leave it alone, could you?" she snapped. "You had to follow him here? You're trying to ruin our marriage." I tried to explain about the texts, about what Kyle just showed me. She wouldn't listen, wouldn't even look at the phone. She accused me of faking it, said I was jealous, that I'd always wanted her life to fall apart because I never liked Sam. And then Sam started crying. I kid you not, actual crocodile tears. He dropped to his knees and sobbed about how worthless he felt, how he was trying, how my words at the barbecue broke him. Leah knelt beside him, wrapped her arms around him like he was a wounded puppy. I left. I couldn't take it. She followed me outside, said if I really cared about her, I'd leave them alone, that she needed space to fix things without everyone ganging up on Sam. Next morning, Mom called me, furious. Said Leah told her I showed up drunk, started a fight, tried to provoke Sam into hitting me so I could press charges. A complete lie. But Mom believed it. Said I needed to back off before I pushed Sam over the edge. I felt like I was going crazy. I had proof, screenshots, eyewitnesses, but everyone was acting like I was the problem. A few days later, it got worse. Sam vanished. I got a panicked call from Leah, her voice high, panicky, like she couldn't get enough air. Sam hadn't come home. His phone was off. Her credit card had just pinged at a casino an hour away, then again at a liquor store, then nothing. We checked every bar, hospital, police station, even called his parents in Michigan. Nothing. Leah went from worried to furious. She blamed me, said I drove Sam away, said I broke his spirit, and now he was lost. I didn't argue, but I kept searching. Finally, someone reached out. Tom, the bartender at the Red Oak Tavern, said Sam had been there Saturday night, not alone. He left with two guys known to be loan sharks. Locals, not subtle types. Leah and I rushed to the police, gave them names, times, even surveillance footage. You know what they said? He left voluntarily. We'll open a case if he's still missing after 48 hours. We sat in the car outside the station, Leah staring blankly ahead. I asked her gently if there was anything she hadn't told me. She broke. Sam had drained their accounts, maxed out 3 credit cards, all in her name, over $150K in debt, lost their emergency fund, sold her grandmother's jewelry for gambling money. She knew. She'd known for months. Every time she tried to leave, he'd cry, apologize, say he'd change, and she believed him, again and again. That night, she got a call from an unknown number. A voice said if she didn't deliver $5,000 by midnight, they'd send her pictures of what they'd do to Sam. She was ready to drain her retirement to pay it. I recorded the call and brought it to the cops. That changed everything. Turns out those guys were already under investigation for extortion. The cops set up a sting. Hours later, they had all 3, including Sam, in custody. And get this, Sam wasn't being held. He was working with them. He thought he could help run collections to pay off his debts faster. Leah, she didn't speak for a long time, just sat there on the station bench, shaking. And still she blamed me. If you hadn't confronted him at the barbecue, none of this would have happened, she whispered. She wasn't yelling anymore, just tired, empty. By that point, I didn't know what else to say, what else I could say. My sister had built a life around someone who was systematically destroying her, and somehow I was the enemy for trying to stop it. But the worst part? She wasn't even mad at what Sam did. She was mad that I exposed it. That broke something in me. Not my love for her, but maybe my faith in her judgment. I was starting to wonder if anyone could pull her out of this mess except herself. I didn't expect to hear from Leah again, not after everything. But a few nights later, just after 3 a.m., there was a knock at my door. It was her. She looked like hell, pale, exhausted, but there was something in her eyes, something I hadn't seen in a long time, a kind of stillness, like she'd finally stopped spinning. I need to talk, she said. We sat at the kitchen table. I poured her a cup of tea, and she held it like it was the only warm thing in her life. Then, slowly, she began to unravel everything. Turns out, Leah had been planning to leave Sam long before that barbecue. She'd been documenting everything quietly, carefully. Screenshots of their bank accounts, photos of credit card statements, a spreadsheet tracking what went missing, when, even audio recordings of Sam admitting to gambling and stealing from her. She had been speaking to a divorce attorney in secret, opened a second bank account in her name at a different branch, and had been transferring small amounts there. She even kept a journal, noting every time he lied about job interviews or took her money. And she never told anyone, not even Sarah, her best friend from the hospital, until Sarah came to me. Sarah had shown up at my place earlier that week, eyes bloodshot, hands shaking. She couldn't keep the secret anymore. Said she had texts, months of them, from Leah laying out the entire plan. Leah was building her case. She wanted to leave clean, with evidence. She wanted to be believed. But then, 3 days after the barbecue, everything disappeared. The folder on her laptop gone. Her secret email wiped. Her backup flash drive missing. Her notebook vanished from its hiding place under a floorboard in their closet. Sam had found it all, every piece of it. He twisted it around, told her it was a sign that if she really loved him, she'd stop sabotaging their marriage. That everything bad happening was because she kept plotting behind his back. He said I was trying to tear them apart because I couldn't stand seeing her happy. He gaslit her so thoroughly that she began to question what was real. He told her that if she left, no one would believe her, that they'd say she destroyed their marriage out of spite, that she'd lose everything. And then came the final blow, the blackmail. 2 years ago, a patient had died during Leah's shift. She wasn't at fault, the records proved it. The man had an undiagnosed heart condition. Still, she and another nurse had exchanged emails about what happened, wondering if there was anything they missed. Just two dedicated professionals grieving a tough loss. Sam found those emails. He doctored them, made it look like Leah had admitted to malpractice, threatened to send them to her hospital's board, the patient's family, the state. If you leave me, he told her, I'll make sure you never work as a nurse again. She lived in fear for months, afraid to breathe wrong, afraid to even think about leaving. And no one knew. Not our parents, not Sarah, not me. I thought I was strong, she whispered, staring into her tea. I thought I could handle it, but he hollowed me out, bit by bit. The breaking point came when she caught Sam trying to access her work email. That snapped something loose inside her. She wasn't going to let him take any more from her. She went straight to her hospital's legal team, showed them the original emails, explained everything. They believed her. Not only that, they backed her. Hard. Their lawyers moved fast, filed for a restraining order, froze all joint accounts, contacted the police. By the end of the week, Leah filed for divorce. She moved into our parents' guest house, while Sam was out drinking. Dad changed the locks and installed cameras. Mom started going through Leah's financials, helping her build her case brick by brick. They were finally seeing what I had seen for months. And Sam, he snapped, started posting rants online, claimed Leah was abusive, said she stole from him, showed up at her hospital once security escorted him out, before he got past the parking lot. His own parents reached out to apologize for ever defending him. Even Kyle, his old roommate, agreed to testify about the gambling and manipulation. Turns out, Sam was fired from his pharmaceutical job for stealing product samples and selling them on the side. He'd lied about the layoff the whole time. His lawyer dropped him after he showed up drunk to a meeting. The police opened a file on the blackmail and financial fraud. It's all crashing down now. The ironic thing is, Leah's not angry, not in the way you'd expect. She's grieving. She told me that sometimes what hurts more than the betrayal is realizing how long you ignored the signs, how much of yourself you gave to someone who never deserved it, how much of your silence became a prison. But she's rebuilding. Slowly. She's back at work full-time. Her team at the hospital has been incredibly supportive, covering shifts, bringing her meals, sending texts just to say thinking of you. She started therapy, said she wants to understand how she let it go on for so long, so it never happens again. She's laughing again. Not often, but once in a while the old Leah peeks through. The one who used to beat me at Mario Kart and steal fries off my plate. We're getting closer again. The trust isn't all the way back, but we're walking toward it. And Sam? Well, karma doesn't always move fast. But when it hits, it's thorough. He's broke, alone, facing possible charges. His name's mud in our community. His so-called friends have turned their backs. His social media's gone dark. The worst part? He still doesn't think he did anything wrong. The last I heard, he was trying to get sympathy online, telling people he was trapped in a toxic marriage and financially abused by his wife. A few random strangers might believe him, but those of us who were close, we know the truth. I've learned something from all of this. Sometimes helping someone means being the bad guy in their story for a while. Sometimes doing the right thing makes you the villain in the moment, but you do it anyway, because love isn't always soft. Sometimes it's the slap that wakes someone up. I don't regret anything anymore. Not the barbecue, not the confrontation, not even the fallout, because Leah's free now, and she's finally learning how to breathe on her own again.